President McLean-Hill, now being that it's 1:41, I would like to call the order of the special meeting on item 8B. The comment line has been open and there are no public speakers, so public line is now closed.
And what I would advise, Commission President, is we would recess the 10 a.m. meeting while we take up this second special meeting on item 8B. Then we will reconvene the 10 a.m. meeting once item 8B has been heard and addressed.
So that's per direction by by council. We are recessing our 10 a.m. meeting. We are opening the 1:30 meeting. We will take item 8B at this time. So that would take us back to the HYPE and weatherization program. David Jaco. And we did get comments on this program, on this item during during our general comment. I think from perhaps I think it was NRDC, yeah, and another comment or so. David, it's good to see you back.
Good to see you. Good afternoon, commissioners. Good to see everyone. I'll be up here twice today. But this one is the update on the Home Energy Improvement Program, also known as HYPE, and Low Income Weatherization Program, also known as LIWIP. Okay, so back in September, we presented on a variety of low-income efforts. This one will be more of a drill down into one of those programs that we presented, HYPE. I wanted to give some background first and then get into some of the some examples of the types of measures and services it provides to customers. And then I'll do the same for LIWIP. I think it's illustrative to see both the similarities and the differences between the two programs. So the original program was launched in 2012 as a successor to the ERA-funded weatherization program. The city received weatherization program funds from ERA to launch this type of program, and then when the ERA money ran out, we kept it on board. We brought it inside. We had been doing it internally with staff. We just kept it and started funding it internally. So the infrastructure we built, and I believe the UPCTs were launched in the original programs or around the time of the original program. Once the federal dollars ran out, we took it on and maintain that infrastructure, and have done so ever since. So the program is designed to help residents lower their energy and water bills through, and I say energy because it also has gas measures, so there's electric, gas, and water measures in the program, through a fixed menu of retrofit measures. That's an important distinction, that this is a fixed menu. Not all measures are applicable to every house or apartment unit, but some measures, some units do get the benefit of every single measure, but there aren't custom measures or any off-menu measures that are in the program. That standardization helps with the scaling of the program. All the work is done by internal LADWP crews in power construction and maintenance, consisting of journey level staff and UPCTs, the utility pre-craft trainees we heard about this morning. The program was intended to target both single family and multifamily, but it's been quite a bit more successful reaching single-family homes. There were some structural barriers that were in place on multifamilies that we have since been able to fix, but it still hasn't ramped up quite as much as we would like in that area. This table here gives a sense. I won't read all the numbers, but going back to when we launched this in 2013 through 2019, you can just eyeball it and see it's generally about an $8 or $9 million a year program. Brings in about on average 5-6 million kilowatt hours a year. And it also, you see the split between single family homes and multifamily units. Generally it runs about 20% multifamily and 80% single family. Some of the infrastructural barriers at first, the way the program had to be run under ERA, all the tenants receiving benefits had to be documented residents, had to be legal residents. This was a federal string, typical. And so we had to sign up buildings by tenant. So say you've got a 100-unit building and only 50 of them are documented, legal residents, we could only do those 50 units. So that was, and that impediment stuck around for a while after we insourced it with our funding, not checking residency, but signing up these buildings tenant by tenant. We fixed that. We work with stakeholders, got a lot of interest in going to the property manager instead, selling the property manager on the program, and being able to access the entire project that way. And that's where you see the numbers start to go up in the more recent years. I won't read all these, but I want to just kind of drill this point that it's a very broad suite of measure categories: energy, water, natural gas, and diagnostic and safety. And I'm going to give you some examples, some visuals of all three of those areas. Of all five of those areas. But things like door repair, window repair, LED lamps, AC window wall replacement, weather stripping, that's kind of the root of weatherization, caulking, filter replacement, attic insulation is a big one, toilet replacement with low flow toilets, aerators on sinks and shower heads, and pipe wrap, that's insulation on hot water pipe. And then I'll get into, there's two of the diagnostics I want to show you pictures of, and I'll explain what those are. And then finally, we always do the safety measures, make sure they have working smoke alarms and a carbon monoxide alarm. So window repair is what it sounds like. A lot of these old homes have wood pane windows. The program does not give new windows, but it will fix broken panes, uncaulked panes, things like that. You see screwing in an LED, installing a window AC, cover plate gasket. I had to look up what that one was. These things, a lot of times you have air movement through the walls, and you get drafts, and you put your hand in front of the power outlet and it's drafty. Well, there's air blowing through that. So that's it's an insulator, it's a gasket that stops that. It's a nice weatherization piece.
Is there a reason we don't replace windows?
I'm sorry?
Is there a reason we don't replace windows?
We do not do new windows, no.
No, I said, is there a reason?
Yes, cost. Generally, to do all the windows in a home brand new is about $10,000, $15,000. And the benefit of that is from an energy standpoint, it doesn't pencil for us. Yeah, but like I said, we do repair and get them weather tight.
So when you say it doesn't pencil for us from an energy standpoint, are you saying that the associated that the difference between standard windows and windows that are in theory better insulated don't produce a result that is sufficiently beneficial
Correct.
to justify that cost?
Correct. Our climate is very mild here. If we were in Calgary, absolutely triple pane, argon filled, highest technology. If you're in Phoenix with tremendous heat gain, but our climate's sufficiently benign that if you have a single pane windows, I believe, are still allowed in code, which nowhere else in the country are they. And it's just because we don't have the type of weather that gives that much of a benefit to double or triple pane windows, as long as they're tightly sealed, and we do that in the program.
Okay.
Some more energy measures. We repair ducts. Often we find ducts that are disconnected or big gaps. We change out the filters. Attic insulation, in this case, is being sprayed in the rafters. It's often also sprayed on the floor of the attic. It just depends on where's the best place for the particular home or unit. And then applying caulking and weather stripping to windows. And weather stripping on doors as well. For water, replacing the toilets, adding those little faucet aerators, which is basically a pressure constriction device. So you still get the water pressure, but with like half or less of the actual water. Low flow shower heads, same idea. Pipe wrap with insulation for the hot water pipe. And then with diagnostic and safety, the blower door test, and this is where those gaskets come in on those outlets, and the weather stripping and the window repair. This is where we wall off one door and close everything else up, run that fan to pressurize the house, and see how high a pressure we drive. And the higher pressure we drive, the tighter the house is, because it's not leaking out through these various things. It's a pretty nifty way to assess the overall tightness of the house. And then smoke detectors. And combustion appliance test, that is a safety measure as well to see how the burner is working, and make sure it's not, make sure it's burning optimally and not casting off, an excess amount of CO2. I mean, any amount of CO2 is excess, but there's limits. So that's a rundown of what HYPE does and has done successfully for going on 10 years now, I think. So now I'm going to switch gears and talk about the lower income weatherization program. The focus here will be specifically on how it's significantly different from HYPE, or better said, how it builds on what HYPE does, but takes it to a whole nother level. So some background on this program. This is an existing statewide program. It's administered by California's Community Services and Development Department, California CSD, and they have a consultant on board to implement it, to manage the program, and that is the Association for Energy Affordability, AEA. So this program is not menu-driven. It has measures that are typical and encountered frequently, like the measures on the HYPE menu, but it's not menu-driven. It's fully customizable to each project. And it covers a broader scope than just energy and water. It gets into building electrification and on-site solar, and even on-site solar thermal water heating. You'll see an example of that here in a bit. Projects have a high range here of size, between 4 and 1,000 units, but 4 is pretty much the floor. It doesn't do too many projects in that range. It more works with the affordable housing developers who manage large, low-income portfolios. Average project size is 75 units, but it's done 500 and 700 unit buildings. I mean, there's really no upper limit, other than what the funding might be. On this one, both the residents and the property owners see economic benefits. That's kind of a key tenet to the program design. And the consultant recruits qualifying properties into the program. That's a key thing. It takes some upfront work to find a good project, a qualified project. And so people find out about the program in different ways. There's outreach, there's community-based organizations that do that, but the AEA also does a lot of outreach that way. A number of these affordable housing developers have an ongoing relationship with the program. So, Weiss Properties in LA, and I don't know if they've done any LIWIT projects, but that's an example. I believe they oversee about 4,000 units across a number of properties. So very often AEA will have a project with a particular affordable housing developer, and they'll develop a relationship, we'll do that project, and then they want to do another project and another project and another project. So there's benefits to that, to that depth of relationship for program continuity. So AEA's role in running the program, they get the projects in, or they accept the projects from the outreach CBO, or a customer hears about it and calls, and they run them through the process. They then assess, they go through the property and do the assessment. They assess what the opportunities are. And this is getting into deep retrofits. It's not just the HYPE measures, but very deep, comprehensive retrofits. They try to get to 40% energy efficiency improvements on the entire property, units and common spaces. And so they identify some fairly complicated measures, and I'll give you some examples of those coming up. And they scope them out, and they help the customer, they prepare bid packages that the customer can then take to their contractors. A lot of these housing developers have contracts on retainer, basically. They have a maintenance contractor, and that maintenance contractor may well be able to do construction as well. And so AEA prepares those packages, those bid packages, with exactly what the measures are, so that a contractor can provide a bid on what it'll take to design, permit, and install those retrofit measures. And then they also have expertise in helping the customer, the property owner, line up financing. And this is a key part of the way LIWIP is structured at the state level. LIWIP customers typically have 30 to 70% skin in the game on each project. And the average is roughly 50. That's a good ballpark average. And how they get that 50% financing, these are affordable properties, almost always, they're either rent controlled or they're maintained through a covenant of some sort as being affordable. So they don't have tremendous upside in terms of being able to fund capital investments out of reserves. So the way they do it is a process called resyndication. I understand it to basically be a refi. It's like a periodic refinancing, and I think it's about every 5 years. So what they do is they cobble together numerous sources of funding, perhaps grants, and they get low interest rate financing to recapitalize the project. And that's when they have the money to do projects like this. And then, of course, the size of this resyndication or this recapitalization is based on what they'll be able to pay off from the revenue stream from the fixed rents. So that's a big part. That's mainly, that's AEA's role. And then under the state program, customers hire their own contractors to perform the work. That can be with assistance from AEA. AEA can point a smaller property owner who doesn't necessarily have a relationship with the contractor to a list of qualified contractors. Now this is important, and this is also a key distinction between this program and HYPE. HYPE, because it's not designed or engineered, so the projects are basically one-for-one swap outs. You come in, you take this bulb out, you put this one in. You take this window air conditioner out, you put this one in. They require permits. Anytime you cut a wire, it requires a permit, but it does not require drawings. It does not require plan check. Low-income weatherization programs typically require plan check. And what that means is you didn't just cut wires, you're actually taking out, rebuilding whole systems. Maybe it's different than what was there before. So then you have to create construction documents. It has to be an engineered project. You have to have an engineer, possibly an architect, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, structural, and drafters to create those plans. Goes through plan check, that yields the permit. Typically, the contractors who work these projects for these customers are what are called design-build contractors. So the contractor can do all this engineering work. They've got in-house engineering and plan, drawing, drafting, and then in the process of getting permits, they then start and actually build the work. So they have another side of the house that actually does the construction. So that's the really, really key distinction, and you'll see in the examples I'm going to offer here. That's the key distinction between HYPE and LIWIP, in that HYPE is it's permitted but does not require engineering. LIWIP generally does get into larger commercial grade type applications. And AEA comes back after the job's done and does the QC to make sure the measures were installed the way the contractor was supposed to. AEA is also on hand as needed during the building process if the contractor has questions about the particular equipment that's being installed. Okay, I covered a lot of this, but yeah, so typical LIWIP measures, again, no fixed menu. Everything that's in HYPE is a starting point. Here's some more detailed examples, and I've got visuals after this to kind of bring it to life. Overhaul or replacement of complete central heating, air conditioning, ventilation systems. A replacement of central boilers. Conversion of natural gas systems such as space and water heating to high efficiency central heat pump systems that would be electrified. Installation of on-site solar photovoltaic and solar thermal water systems. So I want to pull back a little bit and explain why, one of the reasons why the program is so comprehensive and how this works in this particular design. Energy efficiency, the deep energy efficiency that they do, reduces bills. Electrification as a policy imperative and the way the state wants to go at the moment, because natural gas is expensive, tends to increase the bill. And it's not always the case that you can do enough energy efficiency to offset a bill increase from electrifying what had been a cheap natural gas end use. That's when solar comes back and makes the project work. With enough on-site solar, and solar thermal water as well, but mostly solar photovoltaic. With enough on-site solar, you can get that breakpoint back down in the net positive area, where the overall project is saving the customer and the tenants money, and it's achieved the goal of building electrification. And that's where AEA is especially adept. And that's why you need somebody like that who has that skill set to be able to look at all these opportunities on a particular project, figure out the measures that get the maximum greenhouse gas reduction, and then help the customer actually develop the project through selecting a contractor and lining up the financing to make it work. It's a holistic package. So just some visuals that I think kind of bring it home. So now with LIWIP, we get into actually installing set air conditioning equipment, forced air unit in this case, ductless heat pump, and then there's a little example there of a ductless split. You've got an indoor unit and an outdoor unit, and refrigerator piping that connect the two. This is fairly simple. This is what you would see in the multifamily units. A lot of units that they aren't big enough or new enough to actually have a central plant in the building or in the tower, but they have AC per unit. A lot of times we're seeing inefficient window units being replaced with split systems like this. But a lot of these larger complexes that have 100, 200 units, they may well have central systems as well, chillers, cooling towers, and LIWIP will help the customer replace those as well, upgrade those to more efficient. That means developing the project financials, helping the customer line up the financing for their portion of it beyond the incentive that the program covers, and then the customer's contractor installs a chiller system or a cooling tower system or both. We've seen this one on a recent LIWIP project. It's heat recovery. I won't get into a tremendous amount of it, but the idea is if you're blowing out cool air or venting cool air, maybe you can get some of that cool air back into the outside air you're drawing in. Same thing on the heat. If you've got to vent warm air, you can get some of that warmth through a heat exchanger into the outside air you're pulling in for ventilation purposes. It's a very nice efficiency measure. So, again, beyond hype. So these are boilers. This is probably kind of a before and after. Those boilers up top look pretty old. But that's an example. You look at these central steam boilers that might have 60% efficiency. The other 40% is going up the smokestack, and converting them to this nice, clean condensing boiler setup here, where these are about 90% efficient. And also, so that was. This one is an example. Not every LIWIP project is an electrification project. That's up to the customers to whether they want it to be electrified. They find the financials to make that work usually through the on-site solar. But sometimes the customer just wants to stick with gas. So the program is capable of accommodating that as well. It's not mandated that it be switched over to electric. But here's an example of where one was switched to electric. This is a roof-mounted central heat pump water system. You see it's got numerous components, and it's commercial grade. And then finally, as I said, it does solar. That building there, it's stock footage. I don't know if that's a low-income property or not, but there are a lot of low-income properties in that configuration, and this is perfectly applicable to such an installation. And then solar thermal on the water heating side. Solar thermal water heating, I think, has been around longer than solar photovoltaic. Back in the late 70s. It's free energy, so why not? But hopefully this is kind of giving you a sense of hype gets you a certain ways, and then this can do that, but it gets so much more when you get into these complicated engineered products with electrification.
So thank you for this presentation. I just have a couple of quick questions before opening it up to the rest of the board, or just some things I'd like you to comment on. The reason that you're back is because when we initially got your presentation around, it really had to do with equity metrics and the ways in which the work that your shop was doing was contributing to and extending equity throughout the city. And a couple of the things that jumped out was when it came to customers, actually the potential of lowering customer bills, that it was through hype and LIWIP that we saw the significant bang for the buck. I mean, there's some other replacement things that worked, new refrigerators, things of that nature, but really the ability to achieve significant customer, both efficiency but also savings, was through these programs. And at that time, you indicated that we were waiting on, that we weren't in a position to move forward with the LIWIC program because we were still engaged in conversations with IBEW. So I'm curious as to where we are with respect to that. I know that Commissioner Reyes has a great deal of interest in the $100 million that we have sort of sitting there waiting to deploy into the field. So I'm curious as to where we find ourselves with respect to LIWIP at this point.
Okay. Well, I would say the discussions are still underway. There's several pathways being analyzed, but I'm not aware that a management decision has been made yet.
With respect to IBEW?
With respect to whichever implementation pathway we follow.
And so tell me what the issues are that are still outstanding.
Well, I think it's still a negotiation between labor and management.
Well, then maybe Marty, you want to tell me a little bit about this? Because I have sat in on a number of conversations, so I'm just trying to understand what the issues are.
I have not gotten directly engaged yet. I know that Andy has been working with the folks that have performed the hype work and the other work. Part of the issue is that when the scope of the work was fully understood, there's certain things that we've done in the past. There's other stuff that we have not done, such as when it gets down to wiring within someone's property and that sort of thing. And so with that, there's, like you said, there's some work that's easy to identify, other that's kind of new, and the question of how to best approach that. Other issues of when you get into work that accrues liability and that sort of thing. So there may be some different apportionment of different aspects of the LIWIP work. So we're working through that, and I know Andy's working with his folks and getting kind of estimates on labor and what it would take to take on different levels of work.
Okay, so just because I just want to make sure we're all speaking the same English around what I'm asking. So at first, I mean, a month or so ago, you indicated that we couldn't move forward because we couldn't get an NOC to do this work. So we were waiting an NOC from labor. It's my understanding at this juncture that labor has taken the position that this is core work that is to be performed by members of this department, and that they're not issuing an NOC for the construction work or for the engineering and that level of the work that essentially would fall under their agreement with us that needs to be performed by the department. So are we all clear about that, or is that still something that's being negotiated? I also understood that labor was willing to issue an NOC with respect to the scope of work that AEA would perform that isn't, construction related, and that doesn't fall under the work that they would consider kind of core services. So, because there's a difference between, from a management perspective, we're trying to figure out how we're going to allocate the work and allocate the resources for the work internally, and a discussion with respect to where we stand with labor on the overarching question of NOC, which was the impediment a month and a half ago. So I'm trying to understand where we are in those conversations.
So you may have some more detail, and I think Andy stepped out of the room, but he's been working with his staff to look at how that work would be divided up, and also the issue of the partial contribution from the owners was a new issue that we're looking at, how that weighs in and how that figures out in the apportionment of the work. The work that looks like hype work is easy to do and the kind of thing we've done before. So it's that work that doesn't look like that. I know in David's original contract, it was one grouping of work, and so certainly, as you said, the paperwork, behind the scenes management piece, we're prepared to move forward with, and we'll be bringing that to the board next month at the next meeting. It's that other part, just understanding exactly what we would do and acknowledging what we wouldn't do and how we put that together as a package, because the hype package, the LIWIP packages still have to be presented as a package for approval through the state's process. So,
Yeah.
so we're working through that. I'm not the greatest authority on this, and he has details. They are working on this, but as they're working through, there've been more details that need to be nailed down so that it does work for the customers to present a unified package for their funding.
Okay, so I assume then at this juncture, IBW isn't in the way of our doing the things that we need to do in order to begin to implement this program. We're now looking at sort of how we implement it, what we can do. And also I'm curious because one of the commenters made the statement that it was critical that this work be done by outside contractors, and to deviate from that model would undermine the effectiveness of the work. And I'm curious as to your feedback on that, or if that's something that you'd rather talk about later.
Was that a comment from this morning?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I was having technical difficulties this morning, so I didn't hear it, but I'll try and go back and listen to the transcript on it to get the full gist of it. You know, a lot of times, like I said, these customers have existing relationships with outside contractors that have the in-house design construction capability, so that could be part of what the speaker was alluding to.
But since the department will be self-performing the work, the department, among the things that the department will need to do, and that will be, I assume, looking at as a plan, is to make sure that we've allocated the resources internally for the design and the design piece of this, in addition to the construction piece. Is that?
If the department does internally do the work, then absolutely it would require significant additional resources to perform both the design function as well as the construction function.
Well, and you say if. I mean, again, if this is core services and the union isn't going to let us out of our agreement, then if we're going to, only because I just don't, we've been talking about this for a long time. And it has been the interest of, members of this board to see this work move forward. So I don't want to be caught up in ambiguity about how we're moving forward. So it's not if the department's going to do the work. We're just trying to determine how the department is going to do it and what aspects of it can do, and in what time frame, I would imagine, is what is being worked out internally. This is not work that we can contract out, because we can't get an NOC to contract it out, correct?
Well, it's still under discussion with management, and I don't believe a decision's been made, but we have created staffing plans for what it would look like. I'm not sure if Marty's had a chance to
I haven't
review
had a
those
chance
yet.
to look at those plans yet. Yeah.
Well, we have staffing plans internally. So when you say it's a longer discussion with management as to whether or not we're going to contract the work out, then I just have a different question. Because I may be confused. Do we have the ability to contract the work out over the objection of IBW?
The board could make that decision, yes, could issue a contract. It typically does not happen. We normally have an agreement as to how the work would proceed. In this case, and so, again, this is, I'm not the biggest expert on this particular matter, but in this case, my understanding is that there's some work we have done, and that would be work that our crews are capable of. Other work is work that we have not done, and it's not that we couldn't do the work, but we already are struggling in those areas to do our own work on our own properties, our own facilities. And it's work that in the past has typically been done by private contractors. In any of these cases is work on private property, which is, the HYPE program is work on private property. This is work on private property. I think we're well capable of doing work on private property, but we have generally in the past, until weatherization came about, not done that. We work on public property and department property. So
But that was 10 years ago, right?
Well, before we started that,
So
right.
again, so this isn't a new practice.
Right.
Only because I don't want to retread ground that's already been covered here.
Right.
And we are keenly aware of the fact that there is $100 million sitting idle that could be in the field being utilized to both achieve efficiency objectives and also to further our workforce development goals. And so, which is why I'm sort of really trying to get some clarity around our intentions to move forward, so that 6 months from now, we're not still having this conversation. But I also note that Commissioner Reyes has some questions and comments, and then I'll go to the board. I'll go to commissioners that are observing.
Just real quick, don't mean to interrupt you, but to what David's saying is that, if we're looking at packages that are put together, so dividing the work up. I mean, obviously, if a contractor contracts for the work, he's not going to do it all himself. He's going to have subcontractors. So there may be cases where our force is acting as one of the subcontractors. How does a project get split up? How does it get identified? And so that's the part where, if we're going to work with the customer and they have their relationship, how they're going to get the design done or how they're going to get their project managed, how do our crews fit into that? So this is, these are the details, and as we're going through this and we're working with Local 18 on the details of this, we're learning more about what this whole body of work looks like, and so that's what we're working through right now. So.
Susanna?
So just two things, and I just want to also clarify that we have opportunities to create like hybrid models of this LIWIP partnership with the state. Am I correct?
That is an option, yes, that is correct. And that's something we looked at extensively over the summer.
And that is where I see the pathway to have the IBEW folks doing like the core work and partnering with AEA, right, on the administrative part of it. The second thing is also taking a look at talking about the details with AEA leaders so that they understand where we're coming from and how we're envisioning the program, the different options or scenarios that we are working with, because the devil is in the details, and that really takes more in depth. But it's not a question of are we going to do the work? It's a question of how we are going to do it. Is that my understanding, that there is that we have that huge opportunity to do the hybrid model?
Well, yeah, and along the lines of the hybrid model, the thinking behind that, and Suzanne's been part of the discussions for many months now, is that in the presentation here, I stress, I focus on the high complexity element of LIWIP, but not every LIWIP project is that complicated.
Right.
Some LIWIP projects are big, but they're simple.
Yeah.
They're more along the lines of what we do in HYPE. And so the thinking of a hybrid model was that we'd have a decision tree as a project gets brought into the program and assess right away, is this really complicated with electrification, central systems, and solar? Or is this project more of just a deep energy retrofit, more akin to what HYPE does? And so the thinking was that, based on a hybrid model would shift those projects to a HYPE expansion, and then follow the regular, the established LIWIP model I laid out here statewide for the more complicated multi-system projects. That was the hybrid model that we had been discussing.
And just to really express my interest is because, and I know President McLean-Hill mentioned it, it's because this is about the equity part. We have that opportunity to benefit from the state's climate investments and program. LIWIP is part of that because we know that it's our cap and trade dollars at work here, and it is really targeted towards low-income and disadvantaged communities, so that then they take advantage of the energy efficiency program, so that their LIWIP can help lower their utility bills and free up, limited disposable income for other critical expenses. So that's my interest on this one, is that it's already playing an important role here in California, ensuring California has the opportunity to benefit from those investments from our cap and trade dollars. And so partnering with the state and AEA is really important, and then adding to that our internal capacity to also do the work, I think speak volumes of how we engender, those partnerships moving forward. So I would just expect, more discussions. I know the devil is in the details, but my question is how much time will it take I'm always time bound, to ensure that, I know discussions are ongoing, but when can we see some recommendations, or how we as a department is envisioning this program to happen?
I would expect that back by next month. And I'm simply saying that this has been on the agenda now. This is the second time. It was on the agenda 2 months ago. These conversations were going on months before that. So certainly by the next board meeting, we should have not only the AEA, or is it AEA? Proposal before us. But in addition to that, we should have a much more complete detail of how this department is going to start ramping this up. And certainly not to your point, we can get started and continue to add on certain kinds of projects. But we, can't stay in a position where we're considering and doing nothing, for another several months. So, Commissioner Berard.
Can I add one other request to that presentation?
Yes.
Can you also indicate what would need to change in the COVID environment to unsuspend the program? So it's also suspended because of COVID and not being able to do any of the home improvements, but I think we need to have an understanding, and clearly safety is the most important thing for both our customers and for our workforce. But I think we need to understand what would need to change in order to be able to proceed and actually doing these upgrades and projects.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Neiman Brady. Commissioner Berard, did you have a comment or a question? Jill, your mic is muted.
Commissioner, press *6.
Okay.
There you go.
When you count the people in the multi-family units, do you count the adults, or do you count the adults plus their children?
Well, we just look at, we generally look at households. So when we talk about units treated, it's the unit as a household. It's not really tied to a specific number of residents in the household.
Okay, so a mother, a father, and let's say 3 children, that's just a unit.
Yeah, for the purposes of designing an energy efficiency project and estimating what their energy savings will be for the household, yeah. We look at occupancy for other things, like if we're looking at the impacts of having everybody working from home or schooling from home because of COVID, that's obviously a consideration. But for scoping out programs like this, it's just at the household level.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you. I'm really impressed with this program. I'm so glad that we're doing it. I think it's something that we really need to do in Los Angeles.
Thank you, Commissioner Berard. Before I move on, Commissioner Laird, did you have any comments or question? Your mic is...
I don't know. No, thank you. I think the questions have been asked, and it sounds like we need a sort of to try to sort of speed up the schedule a little bit. So, fine.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I think it's clear, based on this conversation, where we want to be at our next board meeting. So I look forward to the report back. And with that, we will, you said you're going to be around for a minute, David? We will move to the next item on our agenda, which is...
Madam President, I would just advise, if we're finished with...
Yes, we have to close this. We will now close the 1:30 meeting.
The special meeting on item 8B, correct?
Yes, so we're adjourning the special meeting on item 8B.